What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Brand Builder TV, where we want to share with you the difference between branding and marketing in 2004 versus 2020. 2020, the evolution train is leaving with or without you. Are you getting on, or is it going to run you over? Right? That's what life's asking. So I'm excited for this episode today. We connected on LinkedIn, and we finally made it happen. So I'm excited. And the reason I'm so excited is I'm a big believer in business. Look, at the end of the day, it's not what you do, but it's really how you do it. And so I don't care what business or industry or niche you're in. Really, at the nuts and bolts of business and branding and marketing, it comes down to, look, at the end of the day, it's 2004. It was what you knew and who you knew. 2020, this is the game changer. It's what you know, who you know, but who knows you. In the world we live in today, in the digital world, it is paramount. And what we're doing right now, streaming, podcasting, is 2020, 21, 22, where you need to be, whether it's your own show, other people's shows, or a combination of both. So that being said, there's my rant for the day on branding and marketing in 2020. Don Litzenberg, helping companies maintain privacy compliance, CCPA, privacy compliance and training, DPIA, SAAS, privacy ops. I would have never, I'm reading that, so I would have never remembered all that. And there's a whole lot of letters in this profile, but we're going to let Don kind of break that down. But before we do that, Don, just give us that 30,000-foot view, who you are, where you came from, and where you see yourself going, and we're going to chunk that down.
Okay, so Don Litzenberg, who I am, where I came from. I like to quote an old 80s movie, The Highlander, lots of different places. I grew up a military brat, and I think that was a crucial piece of my upbringing and shaped the mindset for who I am. Obviously, pro-military and all in on our armed services and the servicemen that defend us every day. My dad lived and breathed it for more than 20 years during the Cold War. Loved the flag. In addition to that, life lessons I learned out of it. You know, the importance of discipline, the importance of to an extent, privacy, which is what I do today, came out of growing up in a Cold War environment where, we literally knew that on military bases in Germany that our phones were tapped and we were being listened to. And so we had to be aware of the things we said and how we approach things. And the ability to kind of embrace the idea of change. So many of us grow up in these environments where we start elementary school, kindergarten, and we go all the way through with the same more or less core group of people. And then maybe we go away to college and we have an entirely different experience that's such a pattern interrupt from everything we're used to that it creates a lot of stress and anxiety. And it's a key component to why so few people graduate after going away to college, right? So being a military brat, I believe that environment where you had new friends, sometimes every year, sometimes you got as many as 2 years before their parents were stationed and moved somewhere else, or you were stationed and moved somewhere else, created that opportunity to kind of embrace the change and understand the kind of chaotic realities of life today. And maybe helped set me up for the internet age a little bit prior to the internet being a thing. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view. I like to joke that my work history isn't about the author. I've worked everywhere from a zoo to a hospital to a newspaper, cell phone company, cybersecurity company, casino technology company, the 3 C's in my technology background. And I currently work for a privacy company called To Be Advised. Privacy's always been a part of my upbringing and my understanding. Like I said, when I was a kid, we knew phones were tapped. As a teenager and young adult, I'd get thrown out of places for taking a camera into the store. That's unthinkable now with everybody having cameras on their camera phones. But in those days, it was a little odd. They were allowed to surveil you. You weren't allowed to return the favor. So it's been a piece of who I am and how I do things for a long time. 2 master's degrees, one in MBA, the other in organizational leadership. Huge fan of studying leadership as a whole, understanding how group dynamics work, how to motivate people, how to get people all going in a great direction, and to kind of have that vision of what a future could be with a ethical and moral background behind it.
Love it, man. I love it. I 1000% agree with you. Having the opportunity to move around the country, move around the world, and need to adopt that ability to adapt, and again, that's huge. I mean, that is huge. And to be the new kid in the neighborhood every 2 years, listen, man, that you have to start to, it's almost like a survival tactic. You have to figure out that adaptability, right? That's good. That's going to work, because this, you could be, completely polar opposites within a 2 to 3 year period. As a kid, man, with all the, all the other baggage that the kids have to unpack as well. I think that is a huge advantage. And I also think that that's overlooked. And the way you broke it down and described it, I think it's spot on. I think it's really overlooked. I think it is absolutely a life tool that is invaluable, that you could take with you, because at the end of the day, you're talking about leadership, we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about businesses, and we're going to share what you actually do. But at the end of the day, it's a communication, right? It is communication. And it just seems to be 10, 20x right now with the internet and with social media. And I know you would ask me my opinion on social media, and I just think that, listen, I think at the end of the day, it's, again, adapting, right? Adapting to the situation, to the circumstances, because I'm sure you agree with this. I don't make the rules, you don't make the rules. Life makes the rules, right? Life says, right. Here's what we have, figure it out. So I think that's an awesome gift that you were given, and then figured out how to leverage that in your on your behalf. So I love that. Do you have kids?
I do. I have a teenager and a 3rd grader, and they're both amazing. I have a wonderful family life. I couldn't have asked for better. I lucked out.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So share with us what you actually do for companies. What is it? Why do they bring you in? Why do they call you? And really, where's your value?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do I do for companies? CCPA, some of the alphabet soup after my title. I'll take the easy one, SaaS, software as a service, cloud computing, everything being lifted and shifted off of premises into the internet, if you will. That comes with some concerns. I do also have a strong cybersecurity background, spent about 8 years in that space, and securing all of that information becomes very difficult. You're constantly under attack. So securing your SaaS solutions is important. More importantly, though, we talked about social media. Everybody's putting information out there to some extent. And, I like the adage, it's not mine, but I like the adage that if the product is free, then you're the product. Right?
Yeah.
So social media is very much about you are the product. And what you are as a product is your personal information, your personally identifiable information. And it's everywhere now in a way that is just unfathomable for, when I was growing up. I joked about walking into places like Neiman Marcus with a camera and being asked to leave. And, that would be ridiculous today. People just don't think in those terms. And so I work for a company that does privacy compliance, and they've been doing it for a long time. To put it into perspective, that camera phone we just talked about, the first commercially successful one was sold in 2003. This company predates it by about 6 months. So since January of 2003, this company's been focused on privacy and making sure privacy compliance was adhered to. Since then, there's been some relatively big shifts as it relates to privacy. You see that a lot in Europe with GDPR, which went into effect in 2018. I know another 4 letters to throw at you, but it's all about data privacy and data protection. The California Consumer Privacy Act just went into effect in January. That gives California residents the ability to reclaim some of their privacy and gain access to what information you have about them, and then ask you to get rid of it. And there's more bills. There's about 18 states right now that are looking to pass their own privacy laws. Every now and then there bubbles up a privacy law at the federal level, and there's some work to try and get that done. We've had industry titans like Jeff Bezos start saying, yeah, maybe it's time for a federal privacy law. So it's out there. Privacy is a big deal, and people have given it up for an incredibly long period of time without any thought for the consequences of that. The consequences are real too. For the European Union, GDPR allows for fining up to 4% of your annual turnover. That's not profit. That's your entire turnover.
Wow, that's gross revenue.
So yeah. So you have the ability to be fined heavily just in the European Union if you're messing around with European citizens' data. European residents, they don't even have to be citizens of any of the EU states. California Consumer Privacy Act also allows for some interesting stuff in terms of right to private action. So that really won't start to hit any momentum until the latter part of this year, because the Attorney General's not really going to take action on it until about July. But again, companies are being held liable for the information they retain about you. So suddenly there needs to be this question around, what are we doing to help keep that information safe? I'm a sales guy. I work with marketing people all day. Sales and marketing people like to be focused on what's effective as opposed to systems and processes, right? We put the systems and processes in place to help us be effective, but at the end of the day, if it's not effective, we're not doing it. We're going to go get what's effective for us. Yes. With that being said, sales guys maybe aren't the best at making sure, oh yeah, I put everything into the CRM, right? How many sales managers say if it's not in the CRM, it doesn't exist, right? We don't put it into the CRM. We maybe track it on this spreadsheet over here. We've got this personal database. We keep tracking our personal email, etc. That's still all information that we're retaining on customers that we could, as a company, the company could be held liable for. If you don't know where the information is, who has access to it, then you really can't say it's secure. Mm-hmm. So we help companies understand that and identify where their information is. And then we allow for a privacy initiative within the organization that creates kind of the culture of privacy as well as a privacy by design that gives the companies the ability to move forward and say, we know where your information is. Dave, we've got all of this information about you, and we can show you every interaction we've had with you should you come calling and ask for it. Because if you come calling and ask for it and I can't tell you, then I can be fined, $750 under California Consumer Privacy Act, up to $7,500 for in the case of breaches and negligence. Under GDPR, if it's a big enough fine for enough people, those fines will get really, really, really big. Mm. So we help companies stay compliant. We help companies improve their trust with their consumers or the people that they interact with by showing them we are good stewards of their data, and that we have a reason to have that data. If we don't have a reason to have it, then probably we don't need to have it. Let's get rid of it. Get it out of the system.
Mm. And I got a few emails already being in SoCal that, the Privacy Act that you were mentioning. If my question to you then is, and we're talking about California here, if I wanted to go to a company that I believe has my information and say, hey, I need you to get rid of that, how do you know that they got rid of it? Like, how can you be sure that they got rid of it?
Right? Yeah. So ideally, if you tell a company, hey, look, I want you to get rid of all of my information, they will come back to you and tell you, yes, we have complied with your request. We have eliminated this information. There's some caveats to that. They can't, delete you carte blanche. You can't go to the credit card company and say, hey, get rid of anything you have on me. Oh, by the way, I'm not paying my $25,000 credit card bill. Right. There's business needs for having to retain information. And it may even be that we need to be able to retain that we got rid of Dave Daly's information and that we no longer track anything other than that we eliminated his information and we had an email to tell him that we did it. Right. So depending on where you are in the world and what the privacy regulation is. There's some rules around what you can and can't get rid of. But if you don't do it and then a regulator comes calling, then the fines are going to be massive, because at that point it's not negligent, it's willful.
Okay. Does a solo person, and like myself, I use myself as an example, the company, I went to the company ABC company said, yeah, we got rid of your stuff, and here's an email to confirm it. Do I, as an individual, have a ability or a right to now bring in, for lack of a better term, like an auditor or something to check on them? Like, just to confirm?
I mean, you could do it through a private right to action, right? If you suspected that wasn't the case, or you could file a complaint with the Attorney General if you believe that they're not being compliant with CCPA. And I've already seen, January 1st, people were getting responses saying, we're aware that you have concerns about compliance with CCPA with this organization. However, we won't be taking action until July. We're going to put that company on the list. Enough people put the company on the list, the Attorney General is going to have enough interest to go pursue it.
Wow. Okay. Because you're the sales guy out there for your company, is there more need in certain niches for what you do? Can you give us some ideas and some niches that really should be talking to you?
So, yes, as a matter of fact, I can. Speaking as a fellow Southern California resident, California not too long ago made cannabis legal for recreational purposes. There's a number of states that have also gone down that road. Technically, it's still not legal at the federal level. If you go to a dispensary, typically they will take your ID as proof of that you're of age, right? So what are they doing to ensure the protection of that information? That industry is full of disruptors, right? And I think it's done a lot of really good things in the time that it's fairly nascent as a legalized entity in the states that it's been in. But I don't know that they have been good stewards of people's data and ensuring their privacy. And that could have very serious implications for individuals, right? I could see California being a hotbed for this because of the California Consumer Privacy Act and the legalization here. But then you turn around, and if the information were to get breached on your entire client database, right, and it turns out some of those people maybe have government jobs that could lose those jobs because at a federal level it hasn't been legalized, that's a problem. Right. So that's one industry where I could see that there's a big opportunity for get your privacy compliance right now. Don't wait for a breach. Don't wait for you to be the big story about all the people that no longer want to do business with you because of this problem. Right. The pharmaceutical industry, lots of people in the pharmaceutical industry doing clinical trials with like European residents. GDPR applies in spades to them. That's one area where I would say that there's a strong possibility for us to help because, people going through clinical trials for perhaps medicine that they wouldn't want their coworkers to know they're taking for issues that they don't want publicly shared. You can see how that's super important, right? And they are held to some medical standards in terms of HIPAA, but there's additional, you go to a website for a huge conglomerate, GlaxoSmithKline, Bayer, one of those guys, AstraZeneca, and they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of products, and you may just have an interest in, I don't know, Bayer's aspirin and participate in some promotion to get emails from Bayer about their aspirin, as an example. That's now consumer information that isn't necessarily regulated by HIPAA that you still want to be able to maintain a high level of privacy for.
Yeah, and two questions that jump out at me, but let me go to the second one first. My mind goes right to a big part of the audience that's watching this and who I coaches, commission salespeople, and small to medium-sized businesses. And let's just take a car dealership, right? They want your information, and then they're gonna run that information not only with the finance division, but just to have your information on file if you want to. They want to take a copy of your license and things like that, just to take the car out for a run. So I would have to imagine that, man, this is right across the board and especially with the internet and online businesses now. I would have to imagine this is right across the board for companies like you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's just it. We're as a society, we've become digital packrats.
Yes.
Right. Find me the guy that only has 10 emails in his inbox, and I'll find you the guy that just signed up for email today. Right? None of us are really good about saying, I don't need that, let it go.
Yeah.
And it's prevalent in how we think about things. I recently talked to a local group for the American Marketing Association, and we were talking about what information do you have and what do you do with that information? Do you need somebody's birth date, including the year, to be able to send an email drip campaign to them? And what is that email drip campaign doing, and what value are you providing in that campaign by having all that information about that individual? It may be great to turn around and tell you happy birthday on your birthday, but how many of those emails do you get every year on your birthday, and which one of them's got you to buy something? Question: how many of those emails that you got that said happy birthday because you once signed up for an informational newsletter got you to buy something on your birthday because they sent you a birthday email or a 15% off coupon or whatever? Right? They don't work, but we hold on to this idea maybe, right? Yeah. And I joke that it's funny that in marketing we call them drip campaigns, because drip is never good. Don't ever say, there's a drip under my car. Well, that's a good sign, right? Or I hear a drip in the kitchen. Maybe I should go check that out and see what awesomeness that could be. Or the bathroom or whatever, right? Drips are never a good sound to hear. So, but then we turn around and we say, hey, let's market to people with drip campaigns, where it's that slightly annoying drop in their inbox on a cadence that's not enough to annoy them to get them to say unsubscribe, but frequent enough that they're constantly aware it's there.
Now we're talking emails, right? We're talking computers, but the most important computer, right? This guy here.
Yep.
Text and let me really leverage you right now. The cloud, right? What does that actually mean? Like, in other words, people like, oh, it's great, I have everything saved to the cloud, right? Give us the good and bad of that.
All right, so the good, the cloud is highly redundant. So what I mean by that is if you store your information on your computer hard drive at home, the way we think about things traditionally with computers, or if you store all your pictures just on your phone, either of those go missing, break, or fail in some way, and it's gone, right? The nice thing about the cloud is that you could have 200 servers go down on Amazon Web Services or Microsoft's Azure, which is where something ridiculous like 60% of the entire web exists on one of those two, right? And there's still hundreds or thousands more servers backing those up to make sure that that information is still readily available in real time, right? So, that video of your kid dancing in a puddle stays there regardless of how many hard drives fail or how many servers go down. That's the benefit of the cloud. Downside to the cloud, it's a huge attack vector, and you have to have security absolutely right. So again, I come from a cybersecurity background. Defending the cloud is a multi-tiered thing constantly. There's those servers that the cloud runs on that you've got to protect at the operating system level. There's virtual machines on top of that. There's all the way down to, can they guess your password, right? And what's it say behind you? Fearless is bullshit. If that's your password, And I guess that I've got access to your cloud.
Yeah.
And you can't just turn off the phone and say, okay, good. Or, pull the plug out of your computer and say, okay, good. Now they don't have access to it anymore. I've got access to everything. And if Fearless is bullshit is how I got into your, did I see an Android phone there? Your Google
iPhone.
account?
iPhone.
Okay. Better into your iCloud account.
Yeah.
It's possible that I can start getting into all your other stuff too.
Yes.
Right. That I have a good chance of guessing or getting access to the other passwords you have.
No.
So it's important to understand the security side of it. And from a privacy perspective, it's important to trust the companies you're relying on to store all that information for you. And I can't stress that enough. That we talk about you talk about marketing and sales in 2004 versus 2020. Guess what? In 2004, nobody cared about privacy. Mm-hmm. In 2004, there were these crazy ideas that one day you'd be able to walk into a store and you'd see advertising based on what store you were in. That's not crazy anymore. That's easy with geofencing and geolocation data and the right browser plugins, right? So you have to trust the companies you're giving that information to. You have to trust them to be good stewards of your data. And if they're not good stewards of your data, it doesn't matter how much they tell you they're privacy minded, you don't buy it. None of us expect to go on Facebook and have them be a good steward of our data, and that if we post it there, that it's safe, right? I mean, they just let us down way too many times. And I still have a Facebook account. I've been on Facebook since about 2006, I think. A really long time. I've been on Twitter since 2007, 2008 timeframe. A really long time. I get it. I want to participate, and I also now frame everything with the understanding of what information am I willing to give you, knowing what kind of steward you're going to be with that information. And so, getting a privacy compliance program in place that builds that trust from the beginning. Hey. It's not just that link very down at the very bottom of the website where you say, hey, what are you doing with my data? And then it's a wall of legalese, but getting a authentic, genuine interaction going with you around, hey, look, this is what I need to know about you to do the job I want to do. This is what I'm going to do with the data that I get about you. And this is what I'm going to do if you ask me to get rid of it, is huge. And you will be far more likely to do more business with that company than somebody who says,
yeah.
I don't know who has access to what. We don't keep track of that.
Gotcha. Now, you come into a company, you get them all structured, you get them all set up with systems and things like that. You also offer ongoing management for that division, for a company if it warrants it?
Yes, we do. So we take kind of a three-pronged or a holistic approach to privacy. We offer services. We can come in and consult and give you, recommendations. We can help write your privacy statements. We can help you with the legal side of things as needed. We offer software that allows you to manage your privacy compliance initiatives. So we have a fairly robust product with a really robust API, so we can plug into whatever you want to be able to pull data in as needed, to be able to see what information resides where. And we help you come up with easy to understand and easy to use ways to track how you're approaching information and what you're doing with it. And under GDPR, they're called technical and operational measures, right? So we offer software that allows you to do all of that, including cookie consent, privacy statement generators. It's about as robust as you can get in terms of a privacy software solution. And then the third piece is we can be your external DPO. The GDPR sets this idea of you have to have a data protection officer within the company. And the way it is under European regulation, it's very hard to get rid of that person if you don't like him. I mean, everybody would love Dave, so you'd have no problems. But somebody may not like having to come in and look at this every day, and that may be enough reason for them to say, I don't want that guy in the business anymore. You can't get rid of him in the European Union that way. If it's not related specifically to the job function they have, you cannot get rid of them. They're responsible to the board. So what companies are starting to do increasingly is hire an external DPO, somebody who's outside the organization that they contract with to perform that same function for them. But it gives them the flexibility to say, need more resources during this period of time because we know we're going to do an M&A, or We know we're going to spin up 3 subsidiaries, need less resources during this period of time where we're kind of going ongoing business, right? So that flexibility to have a privacy professional or group of privacy professionals running your privacy initiatives for your company without having to hire all the headcount, because the headcount's not there. Privacy is such an exploding industry that there's only the largest certifying body is the IAPP, or letters for you to digest. International Association of Privacy Professionals. They only have 25,000 certified people. Consider how many countries are in the EU alone, and then go to an even bigger market like the United States. You can't hire them fast enough. And so having the ability to outsource that, if you will, it has a horrible connotation, but the right phrase for it, outsource the responsibility to somebody who has the internal expertise and years of experience doing it, is a huge gain for you. It's a huge savings.
Yeah, and it's just a huge leverage. It's at the end of the day, it's that leverage, right? Making sure all your ducks are in order in the right way. It's exactly why I have an accountant, bookkeeper, and it's just not my world, and it never will be. So understanding, I'm such a big fan in business, right? Is identifying your weaknesses so you can just triple down on your strengths. And that's where you could definitely fill in those voids for so many weaknesses with so many business owners and managers, general managers, and things like that. Man, awesome information, man. Very, very needed, and I think probably misunderstood. So before we jumped on and we started to record, we were talking about social media. So I absolutely believe you need to be on platforms and sharing real world stories. Doesn't mean you have to share the company's information, as you know, right? But real world stories that can put things into perspective for people that are going, well, it might not be for me, or maybe I don't really need this, to go from there to maybe I need to call this guy. Maybe I need to just at least pick his brain, right? At the very least. So there's my answer, man. I think you should be on as many platforms as possible, because at the end of the day, people could go out of business. They can go bankrupt. They could, this could, with the changes, this could absolutely cripple companies. If it's
absolutely,
no question. I mean, it just is what it is, right? If you don't do your taxes correctly, they're coming after you, right? So you have an accounting firm, you have bookkeepers for that purpose, and you're no different, absolutely no different, and it's getting more and more prevalent each minute as we live.
Every 10 minutes, yeah.
Well,
that'll speed up to every minute in the next couple of months.
I tend to be a little over the top. So yeah, I'll meet you there in 10 minutes, but I'll tell you what, man, it's insane. So you're bringing a lot of value. So, man, I want to thank you for taking the time. I'm sure you got a lot of balls in the air, and we're going to be, we'll keep you posted when we blast this out, and we will do clips for you. So you can, that could be your relaunch, man, for these new platforms that you're going to be on. But people need that, man. So you're bringing a lot of value. So I want to thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the time, and I'm glad we were able to finally connect.
Absolutely, man. Awesome value. Thanks, guys. Listen, if you're getting value from this, which you definitely should be, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, get it out there, share this information, because people really need it. Just pay it forward. That's all you got to do. That's life's rule, and you're always going to win. So, guys, thanks so much, and we will see you in the next episode of Brand Builder TV.